Hey, it's Dr. J, and guess what? It's Tuesday, and Tuesday is a special day for us in SAC, as you know. We always have someone special coming on, and for the last, now, let me tell you this, for 12 weeks now,
12 weeks.
we've had Jamie Hayes coming on and sharing his gold about nutrition, how to eat, when to eat, when not to eat, but also some other things for lifestyle. It's not all about just diet, because it's nutrition. And I must say that it's getting this front of mind and hearing it every Tuesday has been incredibly beneficial for me and my family, because I now have something I didn't know about and I'm talking about, and what you talk about most becomes important. That's one of the reasons we've had an absolute legend in the fitness industry and also the nutrition game, Jamie. So welcome, Jamie. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Steve, and welcome to everybody else. And great to see Darren and Micheline here, and welcome to anybody watching replay. Just one little note, and this is reality. You all have health. Okay, we all have health. That's a given. But it's whether we have good health or not so good health, and whether our health is actually improving or going backwards. And that's a choice. So we all have health at some level, whether it's optimal or not. And it's never static. It's not staying the same, that boiling frog principle. So it's either improving or going backwards, and that is a choice. And the point of these sessions is to make it an informed choice. So you've got some choices you can make.
Yes, it's the choices we make that actually predict our future. And when we're all locked up in COVID and so forth, it was the people that actually kept sharpening their axe and say, how can we modify and be a little bit different for when we come out? But it's what you do now, Jamie, isn't it? But it's what we do now. And then a lot of the gurus, and also a very close friend of mine, Jeff Jowett, he says, and I'd love to get your feedback before we get cracking, is it takes about 2 weeks to start creating and feeling the momentum. But the results start to happen straight away, but you can't see them. He says that it's about 2 weeks. It's like if you're exercising, you might be a bit sore, you can feel it, but you can't see any difference. But after about 2 weeks, those decisions you make for your health or your fitness or whatever it may be can't start to come to fruition. I know it's definitely for sales. They start prospecting and booking their appointments and creating their momentum and having KPIs they measure daily. It's about 2 weeks before they start popping the cork. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, firstly, I've got huge admiration for Jeff. He really is a doer. When people said you can't do this, but he went out and did it, and changed literally tens of thousands of lives. So if you're watching us, this Jeff, good on you. You're one of my heroes. But look at this. I'm trying to create a triangle with my hands. And let's say at the top of the triangle, you got belief. Oh, well, Jamie sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And as you know, Steve, selling is nothing but a transference of a belief. And let's say we enough to take action. So the next point of the triangle is I start the eating plan. I eat what Jamie says to eat, or I join the gym, I join personal trainer or whatever like that. And then 2 weeks later, it might be 2 days later, 2 weeks later, or 2 months later, you start getting a result. That reconfirms the belief. So we've got belief, action, result. Belief, action, result. Belief. So it is self-reinforcing. So I completely agree with Jeff. And sometimes you've got to go through that 2 weeks. And sometimes that there's pain of change. It's a little bit uncomfortable. You know the old thing, cross your arms. Now try and cross them the other way. It feels awkward. It feels uncomfortable, But so I always put in that framework, belief, action, result. Belief, action, result.
Nice. That's great, because it's people have the best of intention, don't they? No one actually starts anything to fail. No. They say, I'm going to start this to fail. But what happens is they don't stand the test of the time. It's a gestation period to sort of get into the momentum, and then they get a few bad days, or and all of a sudden they give up. And that's when they need a coach, like we were talking about a few weeks ago, having someone just prop you up and say, it's going to be okay. Let's do this. So it's having that belief, taking action with help, and then they'll get the result.
Yeah, and I actually have a short-term and long-term approach, which is, firstly, I really believe in short-term results, getting some early wins, because I think that helps fuel the momentum to stay on course. But I think it's good to take a long-term mindset. Okay, definitely it's great to get some short-term wins. We aim, and in the initial stages, particularly when people drop their carbohydrate intake, they do drop weight straight away. But it's not all fat weight, it's mainly water weight because your body's dumping glycogen and it's stored in the presence of water. So, but it is motivating and people do feel better. So we don't hoodwink them to say you're burning fat, you've dropped a kilo, you dropped a kilo of fat. That's not true. But they definitely feel better. The waistline starts coming down. But we say, sure, we might get some short-term wins, but we really want to think long-term. I think weight loss programs should be 12 months.
It's interesting you should say that, because if we dovetail that into sales or business, one of the things that we preach quite strongly is like acknowledge a good job or a good day, but consistency is the key. It's that consistent discipline to keep doing the things that work. That's where the magic comes.
Absolutely. And part of that consistency is being in the right environment or creating a right environment. And in previous sessions, we've talked about just completely cleansing your home environment, getting rid of all that highly processed food, the highly processed oils, getting the sugar, the honey, all that stuff. Your kids, your grandkids do not need it. If your husband or your partner, says, "Oh, but I want it," well, let him or her, put that in their car or keep it at workplace or have it elsewhere, but not in front of you. So you really want to manage your environment, just like in a sales environment. You want to surround yourself with like-minded people who are seeking to get, their best results at the same time. That's one of the powers of the SAC.
That's right. It's having a community, everyone talking the same language. And I must say, when we first started the SAC, we had all these people that didn't know each other. And then all of a sudden, the language starts to become the same. We then recommend PDR, where they connect with some like-minded people. And all of a sudden, there's a community. And there's nothing stronger than having like-minded people around you. And especially somewhere we can ask for help. And I think it's with nutrition and your health is equally, if not more important.
Actually, I have to change what PDR stands for when it comes to nutrition, but it's exactly the same: practice, drill, rehearse.
Yeah,
Practice, drill, rehearse. Yeah, when you first go to make a dish, you don't get it exactly right. But yeah, and there's a direct correlation between time you spend cooking in the kitchen and your health. I guarantee it.
wow. So we've had so many great little nuggets along the way, and I think that was we just took that and snipped it, and that would be a great summary. What are we going to actually talk about today? What's the focus?
Well, I'm going to first thing I'm going to start. Firstly, I love, what do you call it when you spell out a word?
Acronym?
Yeah, acronym. Thank you. I'm going to start with a little acronym as a little reminder. But over the weekend, I attended a conference. It was actually an online conference, the Low Carb Superstars. And one of my heroes, Dr. David Unwin, who was a GP in the UK, he's actually spoken late last year in Australia. And he was about to retire at 55. But then the patient came along who had achieved incredible results. And my father was a doctor, and he said, Jamie, most doctors eventually they don't learn from education, they learn from observation. Often it's a patient that teaches them something. Where a patient suddenly loses weight, or he had a diabetic patient who went off his medication using a drug called food. And he said, what is happening here? And now, instead of retiring, he's becoming one of the leading lights, even right down to speaking, in the UK Parliament and helping parliamentarians, politicians, lose what they call stones in the UK, and making a significant difference where he is de-prescribing insulin to his diabetic patients, they have reduced, I think, their the insulin cost of their medical practice by £55,000 per year.
Wow.
55. So
Incredible.
they've decreased the drug use in just one drug, insulin, by £55,000 in a year. And now that across all of the UK would be billions of dollars off the UK health budget, billions of dollars. So just incredible difference. And we were actually fortunate enough, Ellen and I, to have him for dinner because we were driving to the airport, and maybe later I'll tell you what he chose to eat.
You read my mind. Okay, I wonder what he ate.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, but I'm going to share some messages from him anyway.
Okay,
Now, so I have brought a little PowerPoint today. Would you mind if I shared that with
that'd be
everybody?
great. Yeah,
So
let go.
let me see if I'm not as good as you, but I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go to PowerPoint. Everybody, close your eyes while I just bring this up here. And my word today is success. And we all want success. And so you may want to, if you're watching this with a pen and paper, not if you're driving, but write down success. And we've added a few bit of colours. And this is just a quick little reminder, just having a bit of fun, the things to focus on. Firstly, start with protein. In the past, we talked about prioritizing protein in your breakfast. If you're having snacks, prioritize protein. Lunch, prioritize protein. I'm not saying having a high protein diet, but optimal protein levels. Not the minimum required, but the optimum, because protein satiates. And quality proteins from meat and fish and eggs and dairy and things like that are very high in nutrient density. And they have a high satiety factor, so they keep you fuller for longer. So really prioritize protein. And one of the key meals, that first meal of the day, whether you have the first meal at breakfast time or midday like Ellen does, whenever you have your first meal of the day, make sure you prioritize protein and quality protein. Now, the next one is use a plate. Remember that one plate rule, which is cook your food, put it on a plate, knife and fork, so forks over fingers. Remember with fingers, it was, grabbing a bun, a roll, a pizza, chips, things like that. No, knife and fork, use a plate, the one plate rule. And that was versus putting everything smorgasbord style where you just keep on eating and there's no monitoring at all. So, and then take the plate to the table, enjoy your meal, enjoy the company, enjoy your friends, and then see for go for the green carbs. Look at Steve's virtual background, all those greens, fantastic. And we're going to choose that and choose fresh. So wherever possible, like Elle and I went for a holiday in Indonesia, and they go to the markets every day because they don't have, a lot of them don't have refrigerators. So they've got to buy fresh foods, fresh from the market, versus the foods that might last in your cupboard for weeks, months, and years, and evade the oils, particularly these polyunsaturated oils. And the conference I attended over the weekend just highlighted the inflammatory dangers of these polyunsaturated vegetable seed oils, which was a new thing that was created a few decades ago, but absolutely inflammatory. So you want to get those out of your life. And then S, sun and sleep. Now, sun, particularly right now, we want to maximize vitamin D because that helps us build our immune function, which is really important with viruses poking around. And sleep, probably as important as exercise when it comes to managing metabolism. And metabolic health is so important. So getting to bed early so you naturally wake up. So, whenever, if you have to be awake at 6, make sure you're in bed 8 hours before. And then finally, if you do these things, smile at the new you. Think positive. Smile at the new you. And I think Micheline was sharing some results she was getting. I bet you she's starting to smile at the new you. So if you just think success, here are a couple of big picture sort of guidelines that people can use.
I think it's terrific, and it's what a lovely acronym, success, going through all of those models. And I think it'd be something good for somebody to see every day. In journaling, it's we actually get people to write down things they're looking forward to the very next day, the night before. This would be something good that would be written in their journal, just to keep it front of mind. Would start with protein, use a plate, carbs, make sure they're greenies, and then making sure it's fresh. No, none of those yucky oils, and then sleep and sun and smile. I mean, that would be a lovely thing to put in someone's journal. Yeah,
Absolutely. And with so many people suffering mood disorder, I mean, a lot of people have SAD, seasonal affective disorder, where, in the winter times when things are grayer, they just don't feel as good a mood. And so anything you can do, so if you can just journal, write down something positive, hey, I woke up, I saw the kids, whatever it is, I contacted an old friend, something positive that you can write down. It really does make a difference to how you feel about yourself and your mood. You can manage your mood.
absolutely. We did a training just a little while ago, and well, more than a little while ago, it's probably about 4 or 5 months ago, teaching people a simple process of journaling. Doesn't take long to do, takes about 10 minutes, and actually it's a reflection of your day, that you'll never get back, and only put good stuff in it. And it's a wonderful pre-frame to actually get you thinking in a positive framework. But I think it's a great idea to add some things, such as what you're going to be putting into your body, as well as what you're putting into your mind. My recommendation is you always write down 10 things you're grateful for in the positive tense. So these sorts of ideas are put things front of mind. It's like a budget, Jamie. If you don't talk about the budget and how many sales or whatever you do on a daily basis, it doesn't become important. So this is really critical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've got to confront the reality. Now, I am going to move into some technical areas, Steve, just a little bit of education, if you don't mind.
Great.
Well, look, firstly, many of us remember the advertising campaign by the sugar industry saying sugar's a natural part of life. Now, chemically, sugar is made up of two substances. One is glucose that the body can metabolize, as long as it's not in excess for too long, and fructose, which the body has completely different systems for trying to deal with, and the body really does struggle with it. If we've got the combination of glucose and fructose in a naturally occurring food, like an apple, for instance, the body can deal with it. But when we've got it highly processed in the form of white sugar, this fructose, there's more and more research coming out showing it's problematic. So, and the whole area of the sugar load in our diets is problematic. And the problem with sugar, it's not just the sugar you add, but the equivalent sugar load of common foods. And this is the research that Dr. David Unwin spoke about in the conference over the weekend. And there's some things I'd like to share with you, almost like a quiz, to have a look at some of these, at the sugar load of different foods. So let's go and have a look. Firstly, there's Dr. David Unwin. Now this is a funny picture because he typically wears a bow tie, but he's absolutely a leader, and there are his links, and I'm going to share another link where you can get some of his resources. The Norwood Surgery Southport is the practice that he works in. So here we have, and I'm just going to minimize the photos here. He's comparing the sugar load of white, brown, or green foods. Now, he's looking at a typical serving size of white rice, white bread, brown bread, spaghetti white versus brown, and then broccoli. And look, the broccoli, in order to get an equivalent serving size, had to go to 250 grams, which is like a quarter of a kilogram. That's a lot of broccoli. So, Steve, can you have a guess at that serving, typical serving of white rice? What is the equivalent in teaspoons of sugar?
Oh, gee whiz. I wouldn't have thought there would be much in there at all. I'm a bit ignorant on that, mate. Let's
Well, what
just.
about Darren and Micheline? Could they have a guess?
I don't know, 8 teaspoons?
Yeah. What do you what did you say, Micheline?
8 teaspoons.
Eight teaspoons. Well, there you go. That's a pretty good guess. And Darren, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd have no idea. I'm unfortunately also highly uneducated on that. I'll go with Michelin's 8. I'll back you.
I'll guess at 3. There you go.
Okay, fine. Well, yeah, they were pretty good guesses. Look at this. So white rice, 9.6 teaspoons of sugar, the
Great.
equivalent. Brown rice, not much different. White bread. Look at it. Brown bread, not that much different. Spaghetti, beautiful pasta. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.6. Brown spaghetti, we think that's healthier, whole grain spaghetti. But really, when it comes to your body doesn't care. When you absorb that food, it just goes into glucose
Wow.
and with some foods, fructose in the body. So that's an incredible load. And now look at the load of that 250 grams of broccoli. That's if you could eat all that, zero point 0.1 of a teaspoon of sugar.
Wow. So when Mum says eat your greens, she knows
Mum
what
is
she's talking
right.
about.
Joan, good on you. Yeah, good on you. So it's just because, and just so you know, 1 teaspoon of sugar provides 4 grams of carbohydrate. So, so they're the teaspoon equivalent. So that is a bucket load of rice. So when we go to Thai or Indian,
No rice.
we order it, but we simply say they offer the rice. You don't sort of pay for it, but we say no, thank you.
Wow.
We just don't have the rice. It's superfluous. Uh, you know, and now, so let's have a look at another one. So let's look at a whole bunch of food items and its effect, compared with a teaspoon of table sugar. So we're comparing basmati rice, potato, French fries, spaghetti, sweet corn, frozen peas, banana, apple, wholemeal, and again broccoli. Okay, so uh, let's go back to our panel here, Darren and Micheline. So let's say the French fries. How many teaspoons of sugar do we think? Darren,
6.
6. Micheline.
Yeah, Darren, I reckon 6.
Okay, well, our expert panel has gone with 6. So let's see, French fries, 7.5. So you're pretty close. So you're doing well. You, you're learning the lesson. But look at that basmati rice. Basmati rice is meant to be a low GI, relatively low. By the way, the glycemic index of sugar is 65. So basmati rice actually releases glucose into the system slightly faster than sugar itself.
Wow.
So even with the white boiled spaghetti, which has a lower GI, so it releases slower, which is good, but still the net effect is 6.6, teaspoons of sugar. Frozen peas, they're pretty good. So whether it's fresh or frozen, I should have made that distinction, fresh or frozen. Really, nutritionally doesn't really make any difference. So if you find it more convenient to get a whole lot of frozen low carb veggies, that's a great idea. Good to pick up on that. Bananas, gee, I would, if you're feeding your kids, I'd give them protein first and bananas second. Apples, a lot better. You know, 1 slice of wholemeal bread, 3 teaspoons of sugar. So you can see how really people, and this is not added sugar, is it? This is the sugar that is naturally occurring. And again, the broccoli, 1/5 of a teaspoon. So your body just doesn't even recognize it. So if we've got, particularly if we've got undiagnosed insulin resistance, you can see. Now let's just go and do another one. So now we've got a so-called healthy breakfast, cereals, toast, fruit juice. And unfortunately, I'm going to say, if anybody's visited anybody recently in hospital, does this look like the sort of low-fat breakfast they're going to get in hospital?
Yes, it does. You're right. They put a cereal. They give you a little bit of milk, maybe a piece of toast, and apple or a piece of fruit. Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on the money.
And also, if you fly on a, like a breakfast flight, not this, if you just count the carbs and then divide it by four, that'll give you the equivalent in teaspoons. So I did it the other day. It was something like the breakfast that was all promoted as healthy, healthy, healthy. It was about 160 grams of carbs. Divide that by four. That's a lot of teaspoons of sugar in equivalent. So now let's have a look. How's this rate? So with the bran flakes, 3.7, the milk, not too bad, just 1 teaspoon. And that'd be full fat milk, and brown toast, 1 slice, pure, but then the pure apple juice, gee, that's problematic, isn't it? That pure apple juice. And also, it's doubly problematic because there's some interesting research saying our gut and metabolism, if we're having food that slowly goes through our digestive system, it just doesn't hit the same way as if it is in fluid. So sugar-sweetened beverages and juices are doubly problematic. It's not just the sugar equivalent, but the fact that it just passes all the way through and bypasses a lot of the normal metabolic processes. And so the total for breakfast in this so-called healthy breakfast, 16 teaspoons of sugar. Could you imagine the airline attendant coming up to you, serving you, let's say, a cup of black tea, and then saying, would you like some sugar with that? And putting 16 teaspoons of sugar in your tea. 16 teaspoons.
It's something out of a movie.
I mean, this is serious. And you see people, particularly people who are obviously struggling with their weight, or they're not even aware that they've got a weight problem, but they're carrying extra around the midsection. And in previous sections, Steve, we've said, if your waist is more than 50% of your height, this is highly associated with what's called insulin resistance. Insulin resistance happens when we have long-term high insulin levels. So somebody can have normal blood sugar levels, but their body is squirting out all this insulin to try and maintain normal blood sugar levels. So the doctor says, oh, your blood sugar is fine. But it might be for a year or 2 year or 5 year or 10 years, your body has been pushing out excess insulin, and that's led to knocking on the door of the cells all the time. Those cells become resistant, and suddenly we get insulin resistance. So, which is like pre-diabetes, not a healthy thing. So, just again, can you imagine that airline attendant coming up to you? You have a black coffee or a black tea, and they say, we'd like some sugar, let me put it in for you, and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're saying stop. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 teaspoons of sugar. Could you imagine? Could you imagine the effect on your metabolism? I mean, this is a toxic load. It's toxic. It ain't healthy. It's toxic. Not good for you. And then finally, let's go one more. So here we're looking at banana, grapes, apple. So with this, looking at typical fruits, and so you can see there's a big difference in the different fruits. And so we promote those low carb fruits that have a low sugar load. And you can see, strawberries, apricots, nectarines, the lemons and limes, they're also pretty good. But the bananas and grapes, they score much, much higher. Now, I'm not saying don't have bananas and grapes, but I really do question whether everybody, all year round, 365 days of the year, should be eating 2 pieces of fruit per day, which is our dietary guidelines.
Yeah, look, I've always wondered why I don't even like fruit. And I much prefer to chomp on a carrot, so to speak. But at the end of the day, that's a fair bit of sugar in there too.
It is. It is a lot of sugar. So anyway, so I just want to say that This is really an awareness session. We should be aware of the naturally occurring sugar or the naturally occurring sugar equivalent in many what we call healthy foods.
Isn't it
Foods that we
interesting,
grew up
Jamie?
on.
You just outlined the breakfast, the fruits, and just food in general. Now, let's just say that's the sugar in the foods. Then they'll have a glass of wine, which is chock a block full of sugar. And
Yeah,
then
well, it's just so you know, the wine, it's burnt. Well, has both sugar and ethanol. Ethanol being the alcohol, and the alcohol is burnt preferentially. So it is a sugar load. You're quite correct.
and then all of a sudden, oh, I might have a Coca-Cola or with my or a Pepsi with my dinner. And then you've got those teaspoons, and then in the Coca-Cola, and we've seen it regularly. I'm sure many people have seen. There's like so many tablespoons or teaspoons of sugar in the soft drink, and then you just proved with the apple juice. So if you actually combine it with the drink as well as those other foods that already has it in there, I mean, how do people actually know what to eat that's not going to be detrimental to them? Because it's so easy to get hold of.
Yeah, and the thing is that and there's research backing this up that if somebody has a sugar sweetened beverage with a meal, they do not eat less. So it has virtually zero satiety. So they
Okay.
do.
All right. If it doesn't, I'll see you on Thursday.
Anyway, that's somebody making a sale. Good on them. So, but they do not eat less, and there's an interesting paradox. Ellen always says to me, "Stop staring," but I do try to carefully monitor, watch people who are obviously struggling with their weight. And what really upsets me is that their children are struggling with their weight. But when you go to get petrol and they proactively saying, look, I did it. It was 2 days ago. I went and got filled up, and they said, we've got the special on these bars. Do you want whatever it was? And it was we're just pushing sugar on me. It's like a dealer, really. And but sometimes you'll see people get like a Diet Coke with a Mars bar. So this is a bit of a paradox, isn't it? Here they are having, like a sugar-free beverage with sugar, particularly, something that's, the chocolate and the sweet and stuff like that. Now, this is a question I like asking dietary experts, which is, what is either the blood sugar or the insulin response to a Diet Coke? Because a Diet Coke has no sugar, so technically speaking, it shouldn't be upsetting blood sugar by triggering an insulin response. An insulin's goal, function, one of the key functions of insulin is to drive sugar into the cells. And I've just got a hypothesis that I think for some people, if they have a Diet Coke, that the body, this is something completely new to the human body. It's just, we haven't grown, we haven't evolved to learn how to deal with this. And that the body assumes that this is sugar, that it does create for many people an insulin response, which drives their blood sugar down and triggers appetite. So that sugar-free beverage may have an effect on blood sugar to drive it down, creating hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, triggering appetite. So wouldn't that be interesting if this, a Diet Coke or diet soft drink actually triggered appetite?
That means people will want to eat more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
It's better have it on a plate.
well, that'd be much better. Absolutely. And, just a little tip, if you want to figure out, whether you really do like diet soft drinks, have it at room temperature and you will taste the chemicals. But if you're having it cold, I remember in my really bad days as a 18, 19-year-old when we started to drink alcohol, Michelin, I'm sure you'll be able to reflect on this. The way to get girls slightly tipsy or drunk was serve them an alcoholic drink that is cold and sweet. Okay, alcoholic, cold and sweet. Because when it's cold and sweet, they don't taste the alcohol.
Is
Now,
that
That's
right?
very
I'm not
true.
saying I ever did that, but but and so when foods are super chilled, often we don't taste what's in there. Michelin, did you have a comment?
Oh, yeah, we did that all the time. And you know, those fluffy ducks and all those cocktails. I mean, they're the things that got us onto alcohol. Which girl wants to have wine? It's so bitter, and scotch.
Right.
No, the sweet drinks were it.
Well, there you go. So
Wow.
that's triggering that behaviour,
So
isn't it?
just no, so not it. Did not never ever drinking at all. I don't have any of those tricks up my sleeve. Oh,
I know you are lucky. You and Casey Conrad, you're both the same. Lucky, 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 and Justin too.
gee whiz. Well,
Yeah.
look, guys. Sure you've got a couple of questions for Jamie. Darren, have you got some questions for Jamie? I saw you busily taking some notes down there. You are an athlete.
I do. I want to, Jamie, take you back to your initial question about the pain of change. And I think, if people are going through a change of, to be healthier, then if the pain of going through that change, the pain associated with that change is higher than the pain of being overweight or unhealthy, they won't change. So I think there's two things that we need to do. We need to make the pain of change easy for someone to understand healthy nutrition and how to make a habit. But is it also worth reminding ourselves of the pain of staying the same, or the ramifications of still being overweight or being unhealthy? What's the balance there?
Well, I think really good points, and there's so much mixed up, in this question. Firstly, one of the biggest pains of change when it comes to weight management, weight loss, is hunger. And the thing that we focus on is helping people lose weight without hunger, because hunger is the enemy of weight loss. So, be it short term or long term, we really, by prioritizing protein, the right meal frequency, all that sort of stuff, we really try to avoid hunger, particularly as the body's adapting. Because in the beginning, we just assume that the excess energy available in their fat cells is not available to them. Because if you ask anybody, let's say who's got 10 kilos to lose, do you ever get hungry? They'll say, I'm hungry all the time. Now, every pound of body fat stores around 3,500 calories. There's 2.2 pounds per kilo. So multiply that out. Every kilo of body fat stores around 7,700 calories. So 10 kilos of body fat is 77,000 calories of energy. Now, Darren, you live in Adelaide. That's probably enough energy for you to cycle from Adelaide to Melbourne and back without eating. And then you ask that person, do you ever get hungry? I say all the time. So that really is a conundrum. How can somebody with an atomic bomb of energy, excess energy, ever feel hungry? And the fact is, they simply, because their metabolic pathways are shut down, they don't have ready access to that stored energy. So if we tell them the old-fashioned advice is, it's all about calories, calories in, calories out, eat less and exercise more, or the volume approach to exercise, low-fat diet, plenty of aerobic exercise, they're going to get hungry, and that's going to stop them. It's going to be the pain of change, as you said. Now, the flip side of that is having, particularly in the beginning, I think a salesperson, a weight loss salesperson, really has a consultative role here, and which means that they are going to help that person reflect on the question you asked, which is, what is your pain of not changing? Because as I said in the beginning of this whole episode, we all have health. It may not be optimal health, it might be good health or poor health, and it's not a static thing. It's either improving or getting worse. And if somebody, let's say over the last 5 years, has put on weight, it is safe to assume in the next 12 months, if they don't commit to a change process, that that's going to get worse, which means, and it might just be weight, but it might end up being health. It might be their immune function and things like that, make them vulnerable. So there is pain and change. And I think that a salesperson really becomes a counsellor. And they will ask, if it were to get worse, what impact would that have on your relationships? What impact would that have on your work and your work productivity? What impact it would have on your energy level? And most importantly, what impact would that have on your relationship with yourself, your self-esteem? And is that something that is a concern for you? And finally, if somebody's got a genetic predisposition, be it diabetes or arthritis or Alzheimer's runs in the family, they don't want to set themselves up for it, and there's no point in them pulling the dietary trigger that's going to trigger that genetic predisposition. And so a salesperson actually fulfills a very important consultative role, helping that person reflect on that very question you asked, which is what's the downside risk, for you not doing anything here, right now. And there is just one extra point I'd like to add to this. We find that people fall into two groups of people when it comes to their motivation. If I've got a friend, a neighbor, or a cousin, I say, who's struggling with their weight, and I say, well, I've got this fantastic program, I'm going to give it to you for free. You know what we typically find? The program's not very successful. There's no pain of change. They haven't made that commitment, and they tend not to get the results. So we find that a consultative sales process that helps somebody make a financial commitment and clearly understand that there's a pain in not changing. And often these people, when we ask them, just to rule this out, if you don't get started today, do you have another plan? Do you have a plan B? Most people don't. There is no plan B. And so, and here's the interesting thing we find with our coaches who also sell our program, and this doesn't happen online, but when we're face to face, often that person's hand goes out, reaches over, and touches the weight loss coach on the arm, and they simply say the words, "Thank you. I need to do this. I know I need to do this." So the salesperson or that coach has got them to reflect on the questions you're asking about, Darren, and that person said, "Thank you. I know I need to do this."
That's great.
Good question. Good. Thank you, Darren.
Very good. Michelin, have you got a question for Jamie?
Yeah, Jamie. From having this little logbook, the magic book I call that, that's been given to me.
I love it.
Honestly, I've gotten to see patterns. So it's been 3 weeks, and I didn't realize that my whole social life is about, I love connecting with people. And the only suitable place to really connect with people that I've known of that is instantaneous and easy is around a coffee table at a cafe.
Yeah.
And that's been the worst thing that's ever happened to me. So I just open it up to you guys because you're all into this, the fitness, and you're good at it. My main lifestyle is all about outings and going to cafes. The other thing I do is walk a lot. But I'm trying to rack my brain to get rid of the cafe, not completely, but significantly, and replace it with other activities and things. Just a couple of pointers that might help me with that.
Well, firstly, I have no doubt in my mind, because of your increased awareness, that you'll get to a point where you'll be able to go to a cafe with even tempting friends, and you'll just be able to order a black coffee and black tea and enjoy their company. They may choose other things. They may even try to get you to have other things, but it just won't be an option for you. You just will not see those things as food, and you simply won't be tempted at all. And you just simply smile, think, "Oh, no thanks. I'm just having black coffee or black tea today." So or a long mineral water, and enjoy their company. So eventually you'll be so empowered that you can enjoy friends that have completely different habits, and circumvent the whole discussion about weight and, "Oh, you're so good," and things like that. But in the meantime, maybe finding other ways to enjoy the company of good friends. The Europeans go for a walk. I mean, the presidents meet at Camp David, and they often have their really good meetings and come to groundbreaking deals when they go for a walk at Camp David. There's so many pictures of presidents going for a walk at Camp David. Tony Robbins says they change physical state, and they get to a new level of understanding of each other's problems. So I have no doubt, and I also have no doubt that through this process you will learn a lot more about nutrition and weight management than the average personal trainer, perhaps even more than your doctor, because they don't learn about these things.
Yeah, there's no focus on that sort of stuff.
No.
One thing that I thought that cafes and so forth, the cafe culture where it's really fun to actually talk to your friends and so forth. But if you actually, when you're talking to people from the fitness industry here, if you actually went to something there, you could do some exercise, whether it was a meetup club where you went for a walk with your meetup friends, and they always finish up at a cafe, and then you just have a cup of coffee, or you just started to do some a group exercise and pop in once a week to do a group exercise class at a club with a girlfriend, and then you'll meet some other friends there too. They're all there for the similar reason. That's why clubs and a health club in general is a good place to start to do things that are outside. And if you're going to do a sport, you might want to play netball again, or something where you've got other people that you then can enjoy their company and have a common goal. Cafes are fun, but as Jamie said, after you won your netball game, you can go and have a black coffee and some vegetables.
Yeah, although, look, I've got to raise this. I am an absolute coffee snob. I mean, and I've made it just like Darren. I believe you're a musician. Is that right? Darren, do you play a musical instrument?
I try to play the guitar, but not at any good level, no.
Okay, well, I tried to be a barista, and as a matter of fact, I found one of Brisbane's best baristas, and I said, "Do you do personal training?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Can I pay you to come, because we've got a pretty fancy coffee machine, and teach me how to be a better home barista?" So it's been like a bit of a hobby for me, but so many coffee places, their coffee, particularly their black coffee, is so bitter. No wonder people have long lattes, which add sugar, or they add sugar. No wonder they do, because it's just terribly, terribly bitter that even I have difficulty drinking. So unless you're completely accustomed to it. So I think a lot of cafes have a lot to answer for, but and the really good ones will choose their beans and the way they grind and express them so that it is non-bitter. So it's absolutely lovely. And I remember holidays in Italy. You see, particularly the old blokes, they're standing around and they've got their little tiny, espresso shots, and they're arguing about sport. They're sitting out in the sun. They're not having big creamy lattes and things like that.
No, you're absolutely spot on. So if you want to go to a cafe place, go to a place to have nice coffee and some healthy food. Guys, just on that thing with Jamie, I know it's completely off topic. Let me tell you a secret. When I was working with Jamie at BE, he said one day to me, Steve, because I drink cups of tea, so I'm going to take you somewhere. We're going to have a coffee, and we drove all the way into Victoria Street, Victoria Road down in Darlinghurst. And I'm not kidding. He took me into this place. There's all these beautiful cafes on either side. Oh, yeah. And we went to the grungiest little cafe. And he said, yes, you'll love this coffee. And I went, oh, my God. And I'm not kidding. There was this beautiful cafes on either side. And he went up there and said, oh, Jimmy, how are you? He said, have a coffee. And he said, I'll go sit down. And we had plastic tables where on either side it was the proper tables and chairs, and Jamie saying, oh, you love it. And this big guy comes up with a dirty apron, comes and says,
racking my brains to think of what the name of it's an institution.
It was unbelievable. And the guy says, oh yeah, who's your friend? I said, Steve. And he said, oh great. And he gave him the coffee, and I said, why did you bring me here? He says, two things: has the best coffee and you'll come back. He said, customer care here is unreal.
Oh, and people have been going there for decades and decades. And it's on the left side as you're driving down Victoria Street, towards St. Vincent's Hospital.
Absolutely. Anyway, we went up to pay. And I said, I'll pay. And he goes, and then the guy took the money. He said, what's this? He said, that's for the coffee. He said, you can pay for Jamie's. I said, what about mine? He says, it's for on the house. I said, huh? I said, why would you do that? He said, because you'll come back. Now, I know it's completely off topic, but this man actually does. He is coffee. He's a coffee connoisseur. And guess what? I went back and I gave you the drum here. And I know it's off topic. I walked in and he said, hello, Steve. And I said, whoa. It was months later. And I had a friend of mine. I did the same thing. And happened again. But the coffee was great. And it was amazing. So I just want to give you a story about Jamie's coffee connoisseur.
And, Steve, it's really interesting. And I know, again, it's a little bit off topic. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of interviews, but some people do not use, it's just not in their thing to use the other person's name. And one place when we visit Caloundra, the owner there is Richard, and he used my name and vice versa. But his 2IC, he just never uses somebody's name, and I don't know his name, and it just feels uncomfortable. It really does. As a matter of fact, I had a support call with Apple Computer the other day with a guy called Ben, and he said, "Oh, hi, this is Ben speaking." And I said, "Hey, let me just stop. Thank you for articulating your name, because I feel rude and uncomfortable if somebody goes so fast I can't even hear what their name was or can't pronounce it." And so I immediately felt more comfortable, with him. So I know we're a bit off topic. So Micheline, you started all this talking about coffee. So we've got you to blame.
My coach, now I'm going to find out which coffee place it is. But secondly, my coach with the fitness has been fantastic. I just get these personal messages coming through, and she's all the way in Adelaide. I'm in Sydney, but that system seems to be working brilliantly for me, and I'm on track. But I'll tell you about my goal. My next goal is to climb and go hiking with my children, and I just want to keep and safeguard my back and my knees. So we'll talk about that down the track.
Absolutely. And, as your weight comes down, your powder weight ratio improves, you can be guided, with exercise and find good exercise options. Steve and Darren can absolutely connect you with great personal trainers near you, or, that can guide you. Plus, your coach can give you access to, online live classes and on-demand sessions. There's some really great sessions there that can, as you're losing weight, help you strengthen and build functional strength too. So as long as you're sensible, listen to your body, there's no reason you can't increase, your strength and function and ability to do things.
Terrific.
Now, Steve, there's a few other things I'd quickly like to share.
Thank you.
I know we're getting close to time. Can I just share a couple of other things?
Oh, for sure. That'd be lovely.
Let's see. We didn't get to, I think we dealt with that, which was the frozen peas. Yep. So cabbage is pretty good there. Look at that. Frozen peas is pretty low. Boiled potatoes much higher.
I have to share your screen again, Jamie.
Oh, sorry, Steve. Sorry. No, thank you. Steve is my Zoom trainer. So let's see, share screen. There we go. And let's go straight into it. Did that share now?
Okay, and now you just push the little button down the bottom there for the go to PowerPoint. So.
Oh yes. Oh, all right.
There, so go to full screen.
No, are we good there?
There we go. Now we're good. We're there.
Okay, fine. So there we go, and so we can see. Gee, boiled potatoes. Look at those raisins. Those raisins, boy. And again, banana. Strawberries pretty good. Frozen peas pretty good. Cabbage pretty good. Very, very low sugar load. So this is the reference. I'll leave that up on screen if people want to go there and check out some of those sugar tables. And I heard him in the conference over the weekend, and he said, we developed these tables. He said, not only that we made them available for free, I do hope you'll use these, So that's PHC stands for Public Health Collaboration, uk.org/sugar. And if anybody wants that I can get back to that. And so finally, just repeating success, start with protein, use a plate, choose the green carbs, go fresh, evade the oils, those processed oils and things like that, polyunsaturated seed oils. Just have the naturally occurring fat in the meat and the fish and the eggs and things like that. Get some sun and sleep and exercise and smile at the new you.
I love it, Jamie. That was awesome. And I must say, great segues into different types of conversation with regards to what food to eat with, and also what beverages to work with, because I love that acronym. I'm actually going to put that into my journal today, and I'll see it every day. So again, thank you so much for your time, Jamie. It was incredibly valuable, and I love doing those little segues. They're a lot of fun.
And Darren and Micheline, thank you so much for your contribution today as well. And to everybody watching there, I hope there's a couple of tips here, or at least an increase in awareness that will help you make an informed choice from this moment forward.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, mate. I really appreciate it. Hey, guys. How good was that? My goodness, every time we hear Jamie just compounds what he's shown us in the other episodes, but also gives you some things to think about. Now, if you really want to get into that, I think Michelin called it the magic book, you should get hold of Jamie, because he has a program called Keto Fitness, which is all done for you via online models, but also Diet Flakes, where you'll have your coach, where lots of people I know are working with their coaches. So we can never do it alone. It's like with sales training and all the rest of it. So,
and Healthy Inspirations coaches around Australia and New Zealand as well.
Of course, yes, with Healthy Inspirations, but you've got a bit of everything there, haven't you?
Yeah.
Jamie's actually got involved in the fitness industry, and he wanted to make a difference when it was in the early days. And now he's also still making a difference when it comes down to nutrition. It's not just about diet, it's about a lifestyle. So get hold of Jamie. The details will be there. Open to having a chat with you, but action is everything. What are you going to do with the information that you've received today? Just look at those tables again, check it out, have your success acronym. But if you don't do anything, you're always going to get what you've always had. And if it's not getting better, as Jamie said, it's going to get worse. It's not where you're static. Up to you. So I'm Dr. J. I'll talk to you when you're a little bit older, maybe a bit healthier. Bye for now.